Welcome back. In this video, we are going to see about interfaces. Last class, we are discussing about packages. Uh, Interface is something like class. It's a blueprint for the classes, which have methods, but without implementation. Which have variables, which is static and final. So I repeat, interface is something like class but not classes. I used to say like no every thing you should write in the class, but interfaces does not belongs to class. It's not mandatory. Itself interface itself is a identity which stands alone and which contains method without any implementation part, and which may have variables but which is public and static. We cannot change the values. So it says interface are syntactically similar to classes, but they lack instance variable and their methods are declared without any body. So once it is defined, any number of classes can implement interface. Not like classes, interfaces you have to implement. Normally we use the keyword interface for this. So please remember we use a keyword interface. Let us see what is the syntax for this. So interface, as I told, is a keyword. We can give the access specifier, which can be public, private, protected. Then interface name, methods. Inside this, you're going to give. Look at the methods name one, method name two. But inside the method, we have no implementation. So interface is going to tell you like no what has to be done, but how it has to be done, we don't say. Something like VT exams, we say everyone has to write the exams, but every individual is going to write in their own way. Implementation is different. Exam is same, that is the part of the interface, but how it has to be done, that is up to the individual. Same way, this interface says we should make use of methods. These are the methods, method 1, method 2, and without any body, and these are the variables which is final and static. So variables can be declared inside of interface. They are implicitly final and static, meaning they cannot be changed by implementing class. So if any class is implementing the interface, those classes cannot change this static variables values. Let us see a small interface. So here is an interface called callback. Interface callback, and inside this we have a method called callback. Look at this. This is the interface name and this is a method name. So I just wrote it as interface. There is no class for this. Look at what we do with this interface. Yeah, so let us see how we can implement this. uh, Once interface has been defined, what we see in the previous page, we defined an interface. One or more class can implement that interface. Look at this. To implement an interface, include the implement clause. So this is an example for that. We have a class, then you have to give the class name. The same class can have any number of superclasses. We use extend superclasses. After we extend superclass, we can implement interface. So these are, you can give the interface. If you have two or three interfaces, you can give it any number of interfaces, and you have to give the class body. Here is an example for that. So class client, this is my class name, implement callback. So callback was my previous interface. Look at this. So which is going to implement an interface called callback, and void callback in p system dot out dot println callback call with p. Look at this. What is this method? So this method was defined inside the interface called callback. Look at this. There is a method called callback. But what has to be done inside this method? Nothing was given. So what I do in my class, I'm going to implement this my own way. So callback is going to print a message. And if you want, you can have your own method inside the class. Inside the class, look at this. We have another method, non-face make. So we are going to print a class that implement interface may also define other members too. It's not mandatory that if your class is going to implement any interface, which cannot have any other methods. We can have any number of methods, but one thing you should remember, that when your class implement any interface normally have many methods. So all the methods in the interface has to be implemented in the class. At the same way, your class can have any number of other members too. Okay, yeah. So this is another way of doing it, accessing implementation through interface reference. You can have interface reference also. Look at this class test iFace, the another one, public static void main callback C is equal to new client. Look at this callback C. Callback C is your interface, new client is your class name. Now what happens? C dot callback. So C is a reference to the interface callback, and C dot callback. Callback is a method in the interface called callback. Now you can your C reference variable can make use of all the methods in the callback interface. So look at this. So which is going to give look at this C dot callback. So it will come to this the previous program. So this is a callback method. We have taken p value as 42. Callback call with p. What is the p value? Which is 42. So we'll be getting this output. Callback call with the value 42. So in this case, please take care. C is declared to be interface type callback. Look at this. Callback is an interface. So this is a reference to that. Yet it was assigned to an instance of client. Client is a different class. So it cannot access any other member of the client class. Look at this. Client class is having other methods. See, your client is having another method called non iFace method, whatever it may be. This a method. What happens? Your C dots you cannot give. We cannot access that method over here. Your C reference variable can access all the methods which is there in the callback interface. Just remember this. Okay, so this is about interface. Yeah, next is there are many methods by which you can apply interfaces. As I told, next thing is about variables. So variables will be always public and static. That means the class which implement interface cannot change its value. So please make a note of that. Class cannot change its value. At the same way, we can interface can be extended. So extension is nothing but it's not mandatory that you have to write all the interface separately. If you want, you can write this interface which is part of a class. Inside the class, you can write it. So I hope you understood this. So this is all about interface. So please recall interface is same as class. It's a blueprint, and whatever the method inside the interface, the class which implement interface has to implement all the methods in the interface. So that is all for now. Thank you. Have a nice day.